Order. Good afternoon and welcome. Obviously, our work session this afternoon is a joint session with our school board. It's the second joint meeting this year. Our first was in February when we were presented with the school facility master plan and study. And at this time, I'd like to introduce or recognize the members of council that are here this afternoon, and then I'll have Dr. Brooks Buck introduce the school board members that are in attendance. She's not here. So I'm going to start with who we got back here. I'm in the nosebleed section there. Okay, we got Councilman Ward over in the corner, Councilperson Butler Barlow, Councilman Williams, Councilman Fawcett, immediately in my front, Councilman Goldberg, Councilman Johnson, and our Vice Mayor, Mr. Leroy Bennett. And I don't think I've missed anyone. And with Judith not being...
Goldberg.
I got Councilman Goldberg.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't diss Councilman Goldberg. Okay.
Yes, I'll just
Vice Chairman
Jack
Bynum.
here. We're glad to be here this afternoon, and we have members from the school board with us. Ms. Jenkins is over here. Ms. Mayo down here. Ms. Johnson, Mr. Riddick, and Ms. Story. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Byram. Before I turn it over to our city manager for the CIP overview, I would like to advise everyone that your mics are hot and they're going to be hot the whole time. So just keep that in mind. And with that being said, trying to keep you out of trouble, Councilman Johnson. I'll turn it over to the manager.
Good afternoon, everyone. It has been several months since we last met, and we'd like to, myself and of course, working closely with the superintendent, we'd like to go over what the proposed CIP is tonight, and along with some information that Dr. Gordon has provided to us. But what I'd like to do with the CIP is review our process and schedule, talk about some of the city's initiatives and completing some of our general fund projects that have been ongoing for some time and took a little delay when the other two schools were constructed. Want to talk about or show you, of course, we received your submittal as part of the process, and then also where our current, the city manager's draft CIP is today. Going to the schedule of our CIP and the development plan, of course, on August 20th, the finance staff and budget staff sent out packages to all department heads and also to Suffolk Public Schools to provide us with their projects so we can start reviewing that. September 17th, those requests were due into finance. Between the 18th of October and the 20th, we had CIP meetings with each department head along with the school superintendent and his staff. Between October 25th and November 5th, we finalized the draft CIP. We did have a meeting with myself, the superintendent, and staff on November 10th to review where we were, what you had submitted, what we tried to do to try to fit it in along with the city projects. On November 15th, we had the subcommittee with Mayor, Vice Mayor, and along with two members of the Planning Commission, as we do every year. And at that time, again, the department heads came in along with the superintendent to provide an overview of the projects. Tonight, of course, we have our joint meeting, and this is very important as we move ahead to the part of the remaining schedule. On December 21st, we'll take the CIP and present it to the Planning Commission. That would be, again, of course, the city manager's draft CIP at that time. On the 18th of January, we hope that the Planning Commission will adopt the CIP, which then would be presented to City Council in the two meetings of February, with hopefully an adoption of the CIP on the 16th of February. During this period, both in the second meeting of the Planning Commission and the second meeting of City Council, there are public hearings as part of that process. Of course, as you're all aware, it's a 10-year CIP. As you get past year 5, 4, it gets a little hazy, to be honest with you. But we tried to focus on what we're doing, at least functionally in the next 3 years. And of course, it all depends on the finances of city, where we are, what's happening, what's coming upon us. The first year of the CIP, once it's adopted, will become part of our operating budget and capital budget, which it gets approved hopefully by City Council in early May or by mid-May to allow the school board and the superintendent to start working with teachers and trying to do the hiring process. I'd like to take a few minutes to talk about some of the city initiatives that have been going on for some time. And of course, all of you have heard about the Central Library. I'm afraid to ask the Vice Mayor how many decades this has been on the books, but it's been there some time. And we're in the point right now, we've funded a good portion of it. We have 2 more years of funding. We're under design on a facility that I think is going to add to the downtown and to our city. We hope to go under the construction with that next year. This project is one of those that have been held up as we wrestled with other financial impacts and as we tried to build the other 2 schools that we have completed, that'd be Cherry and Florence Bowser. So we're moving on and hopefully can keep this going ahead. Wilroy and Nansmouth Parkway flyover, this project has a little bit of money in it in the first year, and that's a very important transportation element for us as we deal with trains and the improved ports and the trains coming through our city to free up that intersection. Northern Fire Station and equipment, again, something in great need up there as our northern end has grown so much and the calls up in that area are has increased so much that it's critical that we get this facility done. The fire training facility access, we're working with the fire department. They have some grant funding. We're going to build a fire training facility out on Carolina Road, and we need to work a little bit on the access to that, and that's in the first year. Human resources, health and human resources building, human resources building actually, which is of course the building across the street, which we're renovating for school administration. That's in the first year, and we want to keep that there and keep moving ahead with that. We also, as you'll see, we have increased the funding for that than what we had shown last year. Courts building renovation, it's hard to believe that the courts building is now approaching 26, 25 years of age, needing some TLC, I'll put it that way, in that facility. I toured it the other day. And so we put some money in the first 3 years to do some cosmetic, do some other improvements, and work on the elevators. I just wanted to highlight these 6 projects as these are very critical to us and that we need to move ahead with them as we try to layer in your needs on the school system side. On the screen right now in your books, and I forgot to mention, you do have all this right in front of you, and I'm seeing that everyone's following it, but I should have mentioned that earlier. We show our major funds here on the left-hand side, our utility fund, our fleet fund, our stormwater fund, transit fund, our IT fund, and our general government fund. So as we look at those 6 different funds, it's really the general government fund that most of our bonds and cash sort of goes to. Our utility fund, of course, self-sustaining, stormwater is similar, fleet fund's an internal fund, and transit, that's mostly state, federal funding. And our IT, of course, is a little bit general government funding or GO funding and cash funding. But as you can see in the first few years, that's very low on the IT side. The general government side, you can see that we've had anywhere from $44 million to $68 million throughout those years on that. And you can see in the total of what all those funds account to. But what I would point out is the focus on the general government fund line item there as we talk about everything. Skipping down a couple lines, you'll see GO debt capacity per our financial advisor. The city is in good position to borrow $30 million annually, and that's what we've been doing, and that's the cap we try to keep under. You're aware that we're AAA rated. We do not want to step outside our bounds. That would cause us to lose that AAA funding or rating over the years because that's going to cost us in the long run. As we go down a little bit further, you can see the next line, what we're proposing each year for borrowing. And you can see that we bump right up to the 30 million each year. Just a little bit more room out there in year 4, but still, when you're talking less than $500,000, you're bumping up against 30 million. I'd like to back up again to the general fund cash. Generally, the city does about $5 to $5.5 million to $6 million a year on the cash funding. And working with our financial advisor and with staff, we've been able to take a look and bump this up. Of course, we've adopted a new policy here recently, council did earlier this year, which we call our waterfall policy, which allows us to maintain what we need to do to keep our AAA, give us a cushion fund, and then what's over that we can put to capital reserves, instead of having to reach in and pull capital out of our fund balance. So that helps us, and as we look at this, we found that we can and do have the ability to periodically reach in there and pick up some extra funding, cash-wise. And that's what we've done. And I want to stress that because this is something that we had to do as we try to layer in both our projects along with the school's project. The next slide is your adopted CIP, which was presented to us in the projects in the order that you had. And as we look down to the total bottom line, we're anywhere from almost 30 million to 46 million and down and back and forth a few years. Now that's, as we look at that and just going over our cash and just going over our bond capabilities, it's difficult. We cannot financially do that much in 1 year. So that led us to our decision process and working closely with the superintendent. There is still a discussion to be had, I believe, but we have tried to do the best we can by layering in the school projects along with the general fund projects. So on the next slide is the school's budget, which is, or proposed budget, which is in the draft, in my draft overall budget. And as you can see, as we start out, and of course on the school's budget, what you said is you had priorities on that also, numbered priorities. What we've tried to do here, and of course looking at it, we moved, we've got JFK in years 1, and I'm skipping down to line 5. We put JFK on years 1, 2, and 3. Now the total is a little bit different than what's in the CIP submitted by the school board, and let me explain that. We took, Isle of Wight just constructed a new elementary school that's modeled after Florence Bowser. It came in at 36.8 million. We then took that number, we added FF&E to it, we added contingency to it, we added some additional funding. It came out about 48. We rounded it up to 50. We feel this is a fairly solid number on the way we approached it, and so that's how we got to 50. If there's a question to that, I wanted to answer that right off, how the 50 million was developed. We did, going back to the top, reduce the school's repairs and system replacement down the first 2 years and maintain the remaining years at 3.5. Trying to do both Northern Shores Elementary Edition in the JFK at one time was difficult as we layered it in against the city's program. So we tried to get the engineering started, and we have the construction shortly 2 years out. Now I know this is not in line with what was proposed, but again, we're trying to work this in and be as proactive as we can. As you can see, the Ops Center had to be moved out a bit, and we did increase, and I've spoken to JFK, but we did increase the human resources building renovation from 4.5 million to 6.5. We have put it in this slide here because it generally sits in the city's building, governmental buildings. portion of the CIP, but I wanted to show it here because it is money that we're allocating or proposing to allocate for the school's administration. So talking about the first year, we've allocated or shown to allocate $17.5 million. Now again, this is a plan. The 10 years is a plan. The first year would become the budget with the adoption of the operating budget. As we move through the next couple of years, as we adjust, things could and may be adjusted as needed as the facilities need. But we're trying to move ahead and get some of your greatest needs underway and try to layer it in a way that we also complete some of the city's needs. And again, the superintendent and I have met on, well, not counting phone calls, several occasions, and have had several phone discussions. And this is basically how we develop this process, the timing. Now the key is we're moving ahead towards Planning Commission here on the 21st, and we'd like to be able to solidify everything. And this is what my draft proposal is. Doctor, anything you want to add to this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moore. And first of all, definitely want to thank Mr. Moore for his collaboration and his transparency as we were working through this process and the overview that he gave from my conversations with my school board chair and our budget and finance team, as well as Mr. Napier, our director of facilities, and the meeting that I had with the Planning Commission. We are very, very thankful and happy to see John F. Kennedy be in place with immediate design work starting next year. And they are also thankful that the city has decided to dip into the cash fund in order to be able to get some projects done. That was a welcome sight to be able to see from any money that was being taken between $6 and $9 million. A couple of points that are going to need some additional discussion between Mr. Moore's team and the team at Suffolk Public Schools. And if we can go back, Mr. Moore, to the slide that we just had up that kind of showed your draft of the CIP, because I want to make sure that both council and the board can kind of follow along with what I want to be able to point out. Yes, sir, that's it. In 22-23, as Mr. Moore mentioned, the decrease in the school major repairs and systems of 1.094 from our normal 3.575, and the idea of doing the College and Career Academy improvement renovation at approximately $2.5 million. We need to make an adjustment for that year where the College and Career Academy improvement amount of $2.5 million needs to return back to the schools and major repairs and systems and replacements. From the governor's office, we have to have a 100% match next year. So we want to try to be able to make any adjustments that are actually going to be budget neutral to what Mr. Moore has proposed in his draft of the CIP. And this will mean that we will have to push out some aspects of that renovation / expansion that we're looking at CCAP. And we've already met with Mr. Skinner, Ms. Burgess, Mr. Napier, Ms. Forsman, and myself. We believe that we will be able to do some of those items in our own operating funds, but some of the things we're going to have to push out a little bit. And this is mainly because of supply chain demands. We're actually 44 weeks out on some of the things we potentially have to order. But the main thing is the 100% match. It's something that we need to do. So I want to definitely be able to recommend to both the board and to council to make that adjustment. And again, that adjustment will be budget neutral for fiscal year 22-23. The other thing that Mr. Moore had mentioned was the $50 million for JFK, and I'm glad he explained how the city came to that figure. And I just want to say, just for public consumption, that inflation is very high right now. And any things that occur, if there's any delay on any projects, we're looking at anywhere between a 10 and 13% increase. So if we can move efficiently with the $50 million, we're hoping and believing we may be able to make it work. But as Mr. Moore showed, the original amount that the school board had asked for was $56 million. And this was from the feedback that we had gotten from several architectural firms and looking at the price of steel, for example, that was actually increasing that amount some. So the quicker we actually start on that project, we believe the better better chance we have of increasing it to, or keeping it at $50 million. The other main issue, and this is why Mr. Moore had mentioned that there's still some additional discussions that need to occur. And, we're trying to do everything we can for collaboration and cooperation, but the current placement of the Northern Shores Elementary Addition with design work beginning in 25-26 at $1.5 million, and as you see for the following year, there's no construction currently planned, and to Al's point, we know that it's a year-by-year plan. That's a major concern that we know is going to be a huge point of trepidation for the school system. So I want to continue to be able to work with Mr. Moore's team, continue to be able to get feedback from our school board to determine a strategy to be able to move that project up, with the concept or idea of trying to keep the amounts as close to being budget neutral for City Council as possible. We believe that this Northern Shores Elementary Addition, not only was it a priority for the school board in this year's CIP as well as last year's CIP, but I also know from communication I've had with Mr. Moore's team, council members, school board members, and really the Northern Shores community, that project has been discussed for a very long time. And we definitely understand and respect the $30 million threshold. That's why I wanted to point out that we were thankful that the city was dipping into their cash reserves in order to preserve their AAA bond rating. But we believe that if we put our heads together and collaborate, that we can find a strategy to move that project up. And as you can see, for that current total for that project is $15 million. That is $15 million really in today's dollars. If we look at that 10 to potentially 13% increase by 2025-26, this will be a $22, $23 million project. And so we think that to be fiscally responsible, trying to find a strategy to be able to move that up is what we need to do. And we're going to continue to work. Ms. Forsman is brilliant, but we're going to continue to work with finding ways to be able to cover as many of our preventative maintenance expenses as possible. Some of the feedback that I actually received from Vice Mayor Bennett at the subcommittee meeting for the Planning Commission, and I was definitely thrilled that Mr. Moore invited me to that. If you continue to look through your packet behind the tab that says questions, the question that Mr. Bennett had asked was that we know that there was some discussion and some clarification that was actually needed to determine how CARES Act or ESSER fund money is actually being used at the school level. And our rules at the school level are actually different than they are at the city. And so I'm not going to go over each individual one of these bullets, but what I've asked Ms. Forsman to do is to basically put in here what is allowable and what is not allowable that the money can actually be spent for. And so I kind of do want to highlight some of the not allowable things such as raises or bonuses, technology infrastructure, hiring new staff, repairs to schools not linked to quality. That's key, repairs to schools there. Furniture and fixtures, which are some of the things that we actually use money for in preventative maintenance. Equipment replacement. If you go into the second page, maintenance on building and grounds. That's something else that's not allowed there. And capital improvements. So we wanted to make sure we were specific with some of those tabs because we know that we've received questions, as I'm sure the City Council has received questions on, can the CARES Act money be used for capital improvements? And so Ms. Forsman went right back through, since we had to submit our applications to really show all of that. And on the final page that we have in there, I also want to remind both council, the board, as well as our public and the community, when this money must be spent by. And basically everything is allocated over a 3-year window. CARES Act 1 must be spent by September 30th of next year. They basically have that end of September being the time frame. We've basically spent almost all of that. And just so everyone's clear, you can always go to our website under Budget and Finance, and there's literally a tab and link that says CARES Act Coronavirus Spending, so that everyone can see that. CARES Act 2 spent by September 2023, and CARES Act 3 by 2024. And we've had to put in addendums in the past because of inflation, because of costs. And so the majority of the money we really had to show, and when Dr. Branch had put together the application, the main parts have to be used and address student learning loss. And so that's what 85% of the money is being used for. This is how we have tutoring programs. This is how we were able to partner with Tutor U for instructional tutors, after-school tutoring, before-school tutoring, our SPS Saturday Academy. Those are just some of the examples that we have used the CARES Act money for, and some of the different devices that we've purchased in order to help our kids be able to use virtual learning. So just in summary, CARES Act money cannot be used for capital improvement projects. I just want to be able to state that. And again, as we go back to Mr. Moore's draft of the CIP, main adjustment 2022-2023, we need to move the money from the CCAP back up to preventative maintenance, approximately $3.57 million as it normally is, because of the 100% match from the governor's office. And then for us to be able to collaborate and find a strategy to move the Northern Shores Elementary addition back up sooner, if not starting in 22-23, more than likely 23-24, because I definitely understand where Mr. Moore is coming from with his cash thresholds and the pushing the $30 million that he elicited on the previous slide. So with that being said, Mr. Moore, that's really all I have to add from the superintendent's perspective. I do want to just close by stating that everything that the school board had put forward was based on facility study, current expenditures that we're using to put and fix some of our schools, and that's why we are very, very happy to see that John F. Kennedy, which is probably our school that needs the most maintenance, has been earmarked as a priority in Mr. Moore's CIP. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Manager, do you have any other comments? You want to move to questions and comments?
Just real quickly, and I haven't asked the superintendent, I don't want to put him on the spot right now, but the CARES Act we're talking about, does that include the ARPA?
Yes.
Funding? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. And also want to welcome our school board chair, Dr. Brooks Buck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Duman, and thank you. Please pardon my 3-minute delay, but I guess the police were not as cooperative as they normally were. I didn't get a ticket, though, officers, wherever you are. I wasn't disobedient. Thank God for that. But thank you for having us. We appreciate this opportunity to come together and to talk together, and we look forward to working together. There is money. The priority for us, and I wanted to say that in the welcoming statement, this is an opportunity for us to work together to get money with the new legislation that has been passed. I doubt if money is going to flow like it's been flowing now, at least in my years of living, and I think I am the oldest, I think, Phyllis. I think I got you a year or so. But I believe that this is probably the most money we've seen for a while. And if we work together, we can probably get some money together. No city, and I've said this before when we've met, and I do want to say this to you, Mayor Duman, and to Councilman Ward and Vice Mayor Bennett and Councilman Williams, who came to our schools last year. You came to John F. Kennedy for us, and this year, Vice Mayor Bennett, you called me, so I know why you weren't there, because you're normally there with us. And Mayor Duman and Councilman Ward, thank you for coming to Northern Shores. We were challenged a few years ago to bring our schools up to where they're supposed to be, and we did that. And then we were challenged to make them outstanding, and we did that. We got national recognition for our performance as public schools in the top 10% of the nation, and we did that. So we believe that if we can work together as city and school board, we can write together. No city has enough money to rebuild all its schools, and that was the purpose of the legislation that just passed. If we take this opportunity to put our monies together and to put our heads together, I believe that we can do a lot more than we've done, and we've just got to figure out a way to work it out, because you saw the conditions of the buildings. We could put a canoe in the auditorium of John F. Kennedy last year when we were in there, and you saw the condition of the mobile units at Northern Shores Elementary when we walked around, and so you know our concerns and our priorities. And we just look forward to working with you to get those things accomplished. I believe we can do it. And I believe that collectively, we can work together to get that done. Thank you. That's what I wanted to say in the way of an introduction. If you want to take turns calling on your members,
Yes, I
and I'll
think,
call on mine to
if we
ask
could,
questions.
if it's agreeable with you, if we could just start with the school board members, if you would just call on each one of your school board members, and then we'll have city council go
Okay.
after school board.
All right. Board Member Riddick, would you like to ask your questions, make your comments? Each of you we agreed on 2 to 3 minutes? Each member, 3 minutes, each member.
I would just like to say thank you for putting JFK in year 1 of your proposed CIP. It means a great deal to our constituents, and I think this is definitely a step in the right direction, and I look forward to working with you all going forward. Thank you.
Board Member Story?
Yes. I will yield my time to anyone who wants it.
Okay. Board Member Jenkins?
Thank you. I just want to say that I'm grateful for the opportunity for us to come, the city leaders, as well as the school board, to come together to work together for the better of our school and our city. Our school system has done great, as our Dr. Buck, our our chair has said, and we need to continue to do what we need to do to make sure that we have everything in place so our school system can continue to flourish with our students, with our staff. And I'm just grateful, as our school board member Riddick said, that John F. Kennedy is in the first year. We've been fighting a long time for this fight, and I'm happy that this is in writing, that John F. Kennedy will be in the first year, and I look forward to working with you all in the future, collaborating to make sure that we do what's best for our constituents, like I said, our students, who is number one in our schools, and our staff who serve them each and every day, and thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Mayo?
Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. And it certainly is good to have another opportunity for the Suffolk City Council and the Suffolk School Board and key city and school officials to meet, to dialogue, and to have conversation about our schools and our city. And again, I'd like to thank you for putting John F. Kennedy first, and that certainly is a definite need. And when we visited last year, we were able to see at that time that there was a rainfall and the auditorium was saturated with rain. So everyone had an opportunity to see that school, definitely a new school was needed. An occasion such as this for our 2 elected governing bodies to come together is relevant and important. And certainly as we make decisions that will impact the quality of life for our city and for our schools, we must keep in mind that the future of our city rests on our youth, our next generation, who will one day lead and carry on the work. And certainly Suffolk is growing. New businesses, new construction of homes, and of course, our school division needs to be informed and to follow what is being planned for our city as well. And hopefully, we'll continue to work together, and I'm very pleased to see that our needs are being considered, and we're looking forward to working with all of you. A well-educated workforce is certainly essential for the future of our city, and our schools are working hard to provide that. So thank you again for the opportunity to be here today.
Thank you. Board Member Johnson?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having us. And, I'm in a little bit of a unique situation here, having sat on that board and now sitting on this board. And I will tell you, it has given me a great perspective as far as what our school board does, what they go through. It's a lot of work. And I just want everyone to know that I do believe our school board is in the right direction. I think they're working very hard. And I do believe, as Dr. Brooks Buck said, and I've talked to a few congressmen actually in the last few days, I do believe there's an opportunity. And I believe that Northern Shores probably can benefit being a blue ribbon school and all those things with the federal dollars. And I think if these two boards come together with a presentation on how to go about getting those dollars, I really think you could see that happen. So I think the more we collaborate with, federal partners, state partners, whoever we collaborate with. And while my public life is ending, my life in Suffolk is anything but ending, and I care very much that this city succeeds. And schools, our students are number one, and we also know that schools and economic development fly hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So I do see lots of opportunities right at this time with the federal government, and I think it's a good time to seize on that. So while I won't be here, I'll be more than happy to. I know the way to D.C., and I can be an advocate. So I appreciate all of you from both sides. It's difficult. It's hard from the council side. I know how it is to balance a budget. I know how it is to take those priorities. I know how long we've waited for those fire stations and the library. I understand that side, and I also see the school side. And Dr. Gordon, I do want to give you a high five because, Dr. Gordon came to us and COVID came right behind it. And you have performed incredibly well. And I have watched it, and I am just proud to know you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Vice Chair Bauer.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Ditto to what Ms. Johnson has just said. We are living in very unusual times, as I was sharing with Mr. Williams before this meeting. And Suffolk Public Schools, even in these most trying times, we have still managed to maintain and to prosper and do great things. As we were at Northern Shores just a few days ago for the legislative meeting, and we, of course, were just recognized prior to that for the National Blue Ribbon. And we have a lot of things to be proud of in this city, and it has come through diligence of this city council and the school board working together over the years, and I truly believe that. We are at a pivotal time. There is money available if we use our heads and our knowledge and advice from people who know even more than we do. I think we can figure out a plan to meet some of these needs that we have. We do have a tremendous need for improvement in some of our facilities here in Suffolk. I've been here all of my life and I've seen this. I am very proud that JFK has been moved up, as Ms. Jenkins said. It affects my borough and her borough probably the most, and I have heard that ever since I have been on school board. And so I'm grateful that that has been moved to be on the priority. I do commend Dr. Gordon, as I always do. We were very lucky to have him as our leader during this difficult time, and his staff, they are phenomenal. And we're lucky to have these people in our city. And education is very important. I've been involved in education my entire life, and my heart is in education here in Suffolk, and I want to see the best for every child in this school division. Everybody should be guaranteed a state-of-the-art facilities in the 21st century. Everyone should be given the best opportunity that we can possibly do. We are a rich and prosperous city, and we need to devote everything we can to education. If education rises, everything rises in this country, and that's a proven. And I look forward to working with all the city council as usual. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Brooks Buck, would you like to wait for final comments
Yeah, we can
until
wait,
after
and then
council?
you can let the council.
Okay, we'll go ahead and have questions and comments from council. We'll start with Councilman Goldberg.
Thank you, Mayor. I've agreed with an awful lot that's been said tonight so far, but I think it's very important that we continue the importance of the city manager and the superintendent continue their meetings and working out together and making it transparent what the city can do and what we can do to work with the schools to make the schools the best they can be. The students are the most important product here, and we also need to support our teachers to make sure they get all the training they need to make sure that these students are getting everything they can get to make them be able to function in this world that we find ourselves in. So with that, that's about all I have to say, but I do continue to say the city manager and the superintendent must continue that dialogue and work well together, which I think they have been doing. Thank you very much.
Councilperson Butler.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo exactly what Councilmember Goldberg said. I think the working relationship between the city manager and the superintendent is a great example for all of us. And I think that the communication between their two offices and the work of their two staffs to come up with the plan that they've come up with has, like I said, is a great example for all of us. I, too, am happy to see that the priority is on Kennedy, because I know that the situation there is fairly dire. So I think that the focus of this plan and the priorities in it are well thought out and an excellent plan. So I appreciate all of you all's work and hope you continue to work together like you have so far. So thank you.
Councilman Ward.
Yes, I'd like to just echo on a couple of things, but I have sit and watched, and he was talking about support. I just think that as a city councilman, I think the whole council was in support of the school board and what's going on. I haven't heard too many negativities or negative answers about that, so I like to think that I did go to JFK last year and was mostly like surprised to see it live. You know, you can hear people talking about, but you see it, it makes a big difference. And this year I went to Northern Shores and give them a congratulations for the National Blue Ribbon. And was surprised again. I like to think, before I get lost, I like to thank Al and Dr. Gordon for working together. I mean, it's said to the point that they did work together, because I would talk to Al, and Al said they meet, and that had been going on for a while before. But this time, they worked together, put their mind together, put things together, respect each other's plans, and see how we can make this happen. And I think we did a good job this time. So what I'm saying is that when the school board mentioned working together, I mean, I think that's on all our agenda to work together. But a lot of times things are put out misleading the people, but I haven't seen anything within this council so they didn't want to do anything. And when you talk about JFK, that was on all our minds, especially ones that went. So I don't know where we got that from, that we didn't want to get JFK done as soon as possible. It's like you said, everybody got a budget. We got to make sure that we understand what's going on. So that's good. It moved up, which I felt they're going to move up anyway. You know, like I said, I didn't hear no negativity about JFK, so I don't know where that came from. The second thing is, I'm concerned about Northern Shore. And with them trailers, I knew about the trailers, and to be there, and the concern that the school board have, the Superintendent Gordon have, I wanted to, hopefully, Al, we can move it up. I mean, I think that, you know, how long can we keep pushing things back? And it doesn't happen yesterday. It been happening, been going on. So if we can do anything, let's see what we can do. And I think I didn't mention this, but Dr. Buck keeps saying working together. And I think I heard recent times she talk about grants. So let's see what we can do about that. Because I feel that, you know, as a councilman up there, I feel that they have been waiting for a while for this. You know, if we can make it happen, let's make it happen. Let's get the job done. Because like I said to me, and you're all saying the same thing, yes, the kids are important. But how important? Let's get it done. I mean, let's get this done. I mean, for Northern Suffolk, to be in that area and how it have grown, to look at them trailers, that's not a pleasant look. I think we can get it done. Let's see how we can get it done. Let's make it happen. Like, again, I want to say this again. Thank Al and thank Dr. Gordon for the job y'all have done. It's very impressive that y'all just didn't talk. Y'all got things done and y'all talked about it and try to bring the best plan. Thank you. God bless.
Councilman Williams.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to say I think that this joint meeting is a step in the right direction. I had the opportunity to go out to John F. Kennedy, and I saw the condition of the buildings firsthand. I apologize for not getting up to Northern Shores, but I am happy to see that John F. Kennedy has been moved up to the first year. I just want to echo off what Councilman Ward said. We all, or I can speak to Mr. Ward and a few other council members, but the majority, if not all of us, were in support of John F. Kennedy being number one on that moved up in the CIP because of the conditions of that building. You know, our kids come first, and it's important that they be in the environment where it's safe for them. So my hat's off to you, Al, Dr. Gordon. You working together and collectively, you guys and council and school board work together. There's nothing we can't accomplish together. So just know that we, we're the council members, and we are in support of our school system, our students, and our city. And thank you.
Councilman Johnson.
A lot of positivity going on here, but this council does support our schools 100%, and we want to see it move forward in the most positive of ways. But what I'm hearing here, I think if there's any, not being negative, but if there's anything we can learn from this meeting, is that we have got to do a better job of maintaining all of our schools and observing our schools and recognizing that we have an issue before it really becomes an issue. John F. Kennedy has been an issue for years, and it's way past time that we corrected that. We have other schools in the city that are heading in the same direction quickly, the other middle schools, some of the elementary schools, and we've got to deal with it on a yearly basis. We can't keep putting off maintenance that needs to be done. And with that being said, the only other thing that I'd like to say is that every dollar that this school board spends, every dollar that this council spends, needs to be spent in such a way that it makes a huge difference. It needs to make a difference to the kids, to the people that are moving here. I want people to move to Suffolk because of our schools. And with what our city is doing right now, I think we can. We've just got, and this is a good step in the right direction. And I, like everybody else, I'm so pleased that we're working together as we are, and we can make great things happen. But we need to recognize our challenges and not let the challenges get to be too big before we fix them. Thank you.
Councilman Fawcett.
Thank you, Mayor. Glad to be on the back end. First off, I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. It's a pleasure for me to see everyone to come to this meeting. And second, I'd like to thank our city manager, of course, for putting together this plan along with Dr. Gordon. I think it's a good opportunity to collaborate with one another to see what we can achieve, keeping in mind what the threshold is for the city as far as dollars go, as far as we can go and bump up against that debt. Let's let's understand that these figures you see today are not going to be the same figures that you're going to see when the process is started. I think that Dr. Gordon mentioned it, and I've brought up several occasions on the dais, that prices have just gone through the roof. Unless these prices start to level off, you can see these figures just climbing. Take a look at some of the projects that we've been working on and where they've started off at and where they've escalated to in cost is absolutely crazy. There is no doubt that this entire city has gone through some real, issues with the pandemic in the last year, and hopefully we're heading down the right road and we don't have another big issue. And I think that everybody's done a great job on both sides of the aisle, whether it be school board or the city, to keep things running, to keep the kids in school, learning as much as you can. I mean, there's a lot of great things, and there's a lot of great positive comments that have come out of this meeting tonight. My hope is we can do the things that we need to do. I mean, I wish we could do them all. If we could do them all, we'd be in good shape. But we got to go where the money's at. And we have to keep in mind, and I'm going to say it again, that we got to keep in mind that these prices are not going to be the same, whether it's year 1, 2, or 3, in any project we're doing in this city. So we're going to have to come back around to this and see where we're going to sharpen the pencil at and where that funding is going to come from. I like the idea of maybe some of the federal dollars trying to sneak in here and give us a bump here or there, but who knows where the threshold is going to be and how successful we'll be at doing that. I'm here to do anything I can to help support in any way, shape, or form, as long as we can do it financially responsible within our budget. And I agree with some of the other council members. I don't think there's anybody here that doesn't want our children educated. I don't think there's anybody here that doesn't want to see progress. I want to apologize. I did not go to Northern Shores or JFK. My schedule and what I'm doing right now would not allow me to be at those two facilities. And I have heard the comments about all those facilities. Futuristic, I'll take the opportunity to go visit them on my own when my schedule gets a little bit better, probably in the spring of this year. So, once again, I want to thank everybody. Thank you so much. Love the opportunity to come together. And I hope that we can continue to have dialogue. And I hope that the dialogue between the city manager and school board superintendent will continue, and maybe great things will come out of it. I think we're on the right path right now. If we can just keep the pencil sharp and keep moving in that direction, I think it's going to be great. With that, I'll thank each and every one of you again. That's all I have, Mayor.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Thank you, Mayor, and I'd like to say good afternoon, and thank you all for coming together. I think this was a great opportunity for us to sit around the table and discuss our needs and wants and what we can afford. And I have to say to Dr. Gordon and to City Manager, Mr. Moore, I think this has been a blessing to me that you all were able to get together and come up with a plan that we wouldn't have to be here, bumping heads about where direction we need to go in. And I'm a person that always say that communication is the gateway to a lot of things that can happen. So I think you all getting together, making this happen, I think it makes a lot of people understand that we can work together. And this is what it means, is we can sit around the table and talk as board members and council, and we can get things done working together. We cannot get it done working against each other. So I can really want to say thank you to the two of you for meeting, talking, working this out, because I had a little bit of feel before this meeting how it might turn out, I'm being honest. But with you being able to bring this together, it made me feel very relaxed talking to Mr. Moore and talking to you, Dr. Gordon, that you all had spoke about this, and I felt very comfortable coming into this meeting this afternoon to hear this plan. And also, I agree that I've always said that John F. Kennedy should stay on top as number one. I've been there many times, and I know the conditions there. I visited a lot of the other schools, and I know this is, out of all the schools, this were the worst, in the worst condition of all. So I have always been supportive of John F. Kennedy being number one. The other projects that you all have going on, and I'm glad that Mr. Moore has actually, city manager has gone through that, showing you what we can afford and what we can't. And that's what I say. People understand if you put the actual figures there and talk about it, and not just everybody have their own idea, but sit around and talk about it. then you can come up with a good answer. And I keep jumping on that because I really feel good about that. You all did a great job with doing that. I think we are trying to be transparent, and I think that that means a lot with everyone working together, and that shows transparent where we can get a lot accomplished by working together. I also like to say that with you all getting the blue ribbon up in Northern Shores, congratulations. I think that's a great tool in your toolbox that you can use when you're out here recruiting and doing. And I think the schools are doing great, especially with the pandemic. I think you all worked good with that. You did a great job trying to keep the kids in school, trying to keep the teachers safe and everyone. I want to say again, I think you all worked very hard, and I want to say that I commend you for all the schools, teachers, staff, everyone that worked to keep those kids and teachers and staff and all safe. I just want to say congratulations and thank you for all your hard work that you all have done. As we move forward in the coming years, I think we have a lot of planning, and this gives us some tool that we can work with. But as Dr. Buck has said, I've talked to Senator Scott and others. There are money that out there that we can start making an application for. I think we need to be able to work with the state legislative and federal legislative to make sure that we are communicating with them and with our needs so they can carry our needs to those different boards and things that they are serving on as well. And with that, again, I'm very pleased that we are here today, and I hope that we will be able to continue to keep this dialogue going so that we will be able to continue to work as we have started out this year. So again, thank you a lot for being able to come together, and I think you did a great job getting this together. Thank you.
Dr. Brooks-Buck, would you like to make final comments, and then I'll wrap it up?
Thank you so much. Again, we want to thank you for being able to meet together. And as Vice Mayor Bennett alluded to, it makes for drama for people to say that we can't talk to each other or we don't get along or all that other stuff that they say. It really does make for great drama, but the truth is, it's drama. We do talk to each other. We can talk to each other. We are talking to each other. Mike and I talk to each other. Oftentimes we don't agree with everything we say, but we talk to each other. So the reality is there are a lot of things that we can get done if we want to work together. And like I said, I believe that we can. We need help with Northern Shores, with several of our schools have mobile units. And our job, our hope is that we started out with them as temporary places for children to be housed. Mobile units are temporary places. They are not permanent places. They don't replace a school building. I would say today, for those who do not remember, our longest board member who was on the board, Phyllis and I, when I came on the board, one of my mentors was Lorraine Skeeter. And Lorraine and I sat over there together. I was in that chair and she was in that chair. And we used to talk about John F. Kennedy. We also talked about Forrest Glenn. We also talked about John Yates. Schools have a shelf life. And I would say no matter how many times you repair them, how many times you fix them, whatever you do, 50 years is a shelf life. Now, I've never minded anyone knowing how old I am. John F. Kennedy was built when I was in high school. And that was a long, long time ago. It's time to rebuild it. It's time. And it's been flooding since you taught in it in the 1970s, and since you taught in it, Mrs. Johnson, Board Member Johnson, in the 1970s. So it didn't just start, and I can't imagine, I pray on a regular basis that nothing falls apart, because I can't be watered but so many times before something just gives up. I think that we have done a good job maintaining what we could with what we had, but at some point in time, it's time to rebuild. Those schools, all three were your high schools. You're from here, and I doubt if I'm sure that you all know where you graduated from, where you went to school. I don't have to give you that lesson, but when I was over at Booker T, some of you were over at John F. Kennedy, John Yates, and what am I forgetting? Forrest Glenn. So they were the schools that were over here, and at some point in time, it's just time to rebuild. But again, no city in this country has enough money on its own to do all of the rebuilding that public schools in America need. And so I really am asking you to let us be partners in the rebuilding. I want to say thank you again, Mayor Duman, for this opportunity for us to come together and to talk about what we can do, what we want to do. I continue to beg on the state level. I don't have a problem begging on the local level, on the state level, and on the national level for the funds we need to get the job done. I think our children are worth it. People will talk about private versus public schools. 10% or less of children in America go to private school. The rest of them are in public schools. Out of the 87,900 plus children that attend public schools in America, Northern Shores Elementary School, out of the 87,900 public schools that are in America, Northern Shores is in the top 10%. That's something to say about the city that we all live in. And that makes me very proud of Suffolk and very proud of the work that we do. And so I ask you, please, consider that as a priority, along with what Mrs. Skeeter and I talked about and Mrs. Bowerman and I talked about many, many years ago. Rebuilding John F. Kennedy, John Yates, Forrest Glenn, and getting our children out of mobile units all over the city. Thank you again, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate it.
Okay, once again, I'm going to start off by thanking everyone for being here. And as I like to say, it's always about communication. I think it's a very timely opportunity to have this with the beginning of the CIP process. And not only is this meeting good for our two bodies, but it's also good for the public because they got a brief overview of the initial part of the CIP process, which is not going to be over until February. So it started months ago. This isn't something that happens in a day. And you're able to see the manager's vision as far as the city's concerned, because it is his vision, which will go through the Planning Commission and back to us. And at this time, we've also received a request from the school system. And I agree with Board Member Johnson. I mean, schools and economic development do go hand in hand. I've also always said it that the city can only reach a particular plateau unless our schools achieve and be perceived as one of the better systems in Hampton Roads. That is the bottom line, regardless of all the other efforts that there are. Now, with that being said, obviously we have a lot of needs within the city. As the city manager enumerated, we've got big projects that we're working on, that we're finishing. And in the big scheme of things, compared to what needs to be done, and especially within the schools, it's a lot of money with limited resources. What the schools need, I read an article, and over half the schools in the United States are over 50 years old. There's schools that are 100 years old. One of my best friends teaches at Maury. It is 105 years old, 105-year-old school. She says you can literally sit in the classroom and the ceiling will fall down. So this is not an issue that can be solved by the localities. It is going to take significant state and federal funding to put a dent in it. So the reality of it is that we have to deal with the cards that were dealt. Just like playing poker, you can't change the cards, but it's how you play those cards. So the cards we have are the resources that are available to us. And I will bring it up, and the city manager probably wouldn't like this, but I even asked about raising the threshold on the bond limit, simply because two of the fiscal policies that directly affect that bond limit, which is the debt as a percentage of assessed value and debt as a percentage of general government expenditures, we were well within our threshold. And thanks to Board Member Johnson, our former mayor, and all the efforts. I mean, I know firsthand how much effort went into obtaining that AAA rating from 3 agencies, and the person most responsible for it is right there, along with, some staff before that, and our former city manager, and those members that were on council. That was a long time coming. So I don't think anyone has the constitution to risk that AAA rating. It's just not worth it. But at the same time, our city is in a very enviable position. Our revenues have looked, knock on wood, knock on something, look very well. Our budget numbers look good, but we've got to plan, hope for the best and prepare for the worst. So we're looking into that. I will get a little bit more specific than some of the other ones will, but I don't want to get into weeds. The good thing about this CIP, and I want to refresh everybody's memory, because it seems to me that some folks don't remember what a CIP is. It is a plan. It's not a budget. We don't take money away from anybody in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years. It wasn't money that we put out there, and all of a sudden we're going to take it back. And I want everyone to be able to understand that. Plans change every year, every single year, because our needs are going to change. The school's needs are going to change. They may next year come back and say, hey, we just had something come up. We need to change this because of this. And it's the same way with the city's budget. We'll have an opportunity or we'll have a need, and all of a sudden something will pop up in the CIP one year that wasn't there last year, and something that was there 3 or 4 years down the road goes away. It is part of the process. And so I want everyone to remember that that's the process. We're looking at the CIP now, 1 through 5 and 5 out. We're not in the weeds. We're talking about what we're going to be able to do in the next couple of years. And that's a good thing. And that's kind of everybody's on the same page. Now, can we do more? How can we do more? If we do more, it's going to take that continued collaboration with the superintendent and the city manager to make that happen. I've got my own ideas. I think money can be shifted. I just, maybe off base, but I'm looking at the funds that the school system has received in CARES Act money, ARPA money, money that was allocated, ESSER money that may be coming down. We got $33 million, and I don't want to be contrary, but as far as ARP money and ESSER money is concerned, 20% of it has to be used for reserved to address learning loss. But money can be spent in some of these other issues as far as maintenance is concerned. And I'll just quote one part of the superintendent's, this is the Commonwealth of Virginia Department of Education Superintendent's Memo number 110-21. What you can use that money for is inspection, testing, maintenance, repair, replacement, and upgrade projects to improve the indoor air quality in school facilities, including mechanical and non-mechanical heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, filtering, purification, and other air cleaning, fans, control system, window door repair, and replacement. So I would like to suggest that maybe we can use some of that money to take care of some of this major repair issue, that we have a substantial amount of cash, and not reallocate that, not remove that money from the school budget, but reallocate it so we can use that savings to push up Northern Shores. Use that savings to apply to the College and Career Academy at Pruden. Use that savings maybe to go towards Nesman River High School, which I would like to see further up in the need of wants here, when we can take care of our high school for what was $14 or $15 million. So I think what needs to happen is that continued, and I want to thank the superintendent and the city manager for working together on a regular basis. So what is proposed is realistic. It's not some pie in the sky in either case where we're going to ask for $1 zillion and hope we can get $1 million. Let's work together. I think council as a whole, everybody wants the same thing. Just like everybody has said. Everybody got a comment and everybody says, man, this is great. Everybody's on the same thing. We're on the same page. We are on the same page. We just need to talk about how we get there. So once again, I want to thank everyone for being here. It's a good step. We need to continue to keep the lines of communication open. And I can't say it enough. I want to thank the manager and the superintendent for working together, because those are the two individuals that put their heads together and they bring the information to us. So it starts there. And we need to have those honest conversations The manager needs to have honest conversations with us, and the superintendent needs to have honest conversations with the school board based on the information that he's receiving from the manager as to what is realistic, what is feasible, what is financially feasible. It's not a matter of want. It's a matter of our ability to provide as much as we can, but it is going to take both entities to work together with the dollars and resources they have to make it happen. So with that, I do believe we have a motion for a closed meeting tonight before we adjourn. Madam Clerk, if you would read the motion for consideration.
Pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A8 and A1, consultation with legal counsel employed by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the legal advice of such counsel, and the discussion, consideration, or interviews of prospective candidates for appointment and the assignment, appointments, and performance of specific public officers or appointees of the city, specifically the appointments as shown on the attached list for vacancies or term expirations for the Community Policy and Management Team, the Early Childhood Development Commission, the Economic Development Authority of the City of Suffolk, the Fine Arts Commission, the Historic Landmarks Commission, the Human Services Advisory Board, the Local Board of Building Code Appeals, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission, the Sister Cities Commission, the Planning Council, and the Western Tidewater Community Service Board. Item number 2, pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 2.2-3711A5 and A7, the discussion of a prospective business or industry or the expansion of an existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the business or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community, and consultation with legal counsel employed or retained by a public body regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, including an EDIP proposal regarding Project Coastal.
Council motion be ordered. Councilman Fawcett.
Move to approve, Mayor.
Got a motion for approval, Councilman Fawcett. Vice Mayor Bennett. Second from Vice Mayor Bennett. Any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Butler Barlow.
Yes.
Councilmember Fawcett.
Yes.
Councilmember Goldberg.
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yes.
Councilmember Ward.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Bennett.
Yes.
Mayor Duman.
Yes.
The motion is approved by a vote of 8 to
Work session, and we will reconvene at 6 p.m.